Good evening and welcome to the 11th and final Inside Government for the spring 2020 semester here at Cayuga Community College. This is the show that is shown on Spectrum, Verizon, Fios, the ARMA, the Auburn Regional Media Access, as well as Win 89.1, the college's radio station. I'm your host, Guy Cosentino. As you know, due to COVID-19, we have changed some things in our studio since March about how we do health protocols directed by SUNY in the local health department, including doing one show per taping. So we do this flipping them back and forth between Tuesdays and Thursdays when we were not doing forums. Tonight we're doing something a little different. We are experimenting with our next guest with a Zoom call to have a conversation with him. Just a reminder, these productions are directed by students, produced by students, and they tape these shows. We front-loaded our schedule so that we could end now before we get to Thanksgiving and the beginning of December, unlike the last time. But tonight we are bringing you the second of two what I call exit interviews of sorts with members of the New York State Legislature who are retiring after decades of service in Albany. Combined, both of our guests last Thursday and today have more than 50 years in the New York State Legislature. Last Thursday, we brought you Assemblyman Gary D. Finch, who has represented the Cayuga County in the legislature since 1999. He decided not to seek re-election this year. And tonight, we bring you the most senior member of the New York State Legislative Delegation from Cayuga County, Senator James Stewart, who first started serving Cayuga County officially in 1987. But he is now the senator for the 51st District. Prior to joining the Senate, he was the top aide, if not district manager, for Senator Steve Reifert, who became a senator in 1983 in a specially created Senate district. The 51st District, if you don't remember, includes parts of Cayuga County, including Locke, Moravia, Wasco, Niles, Sempronius, and Summer Hill. On Tuesday, Peter Oberrocker, a Republican, was elected to represent this district and will succeed Senator Stewart in January. But unlike in the past, we've said, we're trying this remotely. So Senator, welcome into the studio via Zoom.
Well, thank you, Guy. It's great to be with you and with your viewers as well.
So we've known each other a long time, and I am thrilled that you are doing this exit interview, but also you've represented here a long time. But before we get to that, it's been a busy week here in the United States, to say the least. Are you surprised by any of Tuesday's results?
Well, I was really not. I expected at the national level the presidential race to be razor thin, and it's proven to be that. And it may be a few days before we know the winner there in terms of the presidency. And here in New York State, I was very, very pleased with the results. Even though the president did not carry New York, the down ballot races for the Republicans proved to be quite successful overall, exceeded expectations.
So the president did do well in Cayuga. For example, he did really well in Cayuga County. Were you surprised at how well he did upstate?
The president?
The president?
Yes. I was not. Back in 2016, of course, I was on the ballot that year with then candidate Donald Trump. And, I just didn't know what the impact of Donald Trump being at the top of the ticket would be for us here in upstate New York. It was an unknown. But come election day, back then, and the same proved to be true this year, he drew out a lot of voters who ordinarily would not show up at the polls. They voted for him, and then they went down and voted for the down ballot members of on the Republican ticket. So that did not surprise me, because based on the 2016 results, which proved to be quite an outpouring of new voters, or those that don't vote very often, they showed up in 2016. They showed up again this past Tuesday, and that helped the ticket up and down.
So Vice President Biden has won New York State, but the Senate, the state Senate, looks like they're going to be adding some Republicans after some declines back in 2018. Am I correct on that?
You're absolutely correct with that. It appears that we picked up 3 seats on Long Island, even ahead in a seat in New York City, believe it or not, and in the lower Hudson Valley, and of course locally to have Angie Renna ahead in the race for the 50th district, which includes a portion of Cuyahoga County as well as Onondaga. That was a significant race to have a Republican ahead in that district. There was a lot of money spent on the other side, right. And so that was very significant. So overall, I'm very, very pleased. Now, we did lose, appears that we've lost a couple of seats in the Rochester area and one in the Buffalo area, but it looks like the Republican conference in the state Senate will be growing anywhere from 3 to 5 additional members, which I think is going to be good for the people of the state of New York, because I've been concerned these last 2 years when we've had one party control of all the levers of government in Albany, and there have been a lot of bad policies because of that, in my estimation. And I felt right along that the voters would make what I'd call a course correction. I have a lot of faith in the voters of our area and our state and nation, for that matter. They get it. Yeah. And here in New York, particularly in our area, they figured out that one-party control is not in their best interest. They like some checks and balances in state government, and that's why I believe we have been successful this year as Republicans in the state Senate. Now, we're not going to regain the majority this year, but we are well on our way for doing so in future elections, and that's because of the voters really taking a look at the situation in New York and saying they wanted to have some checks and balances and more responsible legislation coming out of the state capitol.
Do you think Donald Trump had some coattail effect for some of your new Senate candidates?
No question that he did. It's a case of who shows up at the polls, and these very strong Trump voters have shown up at the polls this past Tuesday to support him, at least in the upstate region. He even carried both counties on Long Island. He did not carry Nassau County 4 years ago. And so there was more of a Trump vote this year, and that certainly helped our candidates, because while voters were at the polls to support President Trump, they voted for the down ballot candidates as well.
And so we don't
that helped our candidates.
Yeah, we don't, we're still waiting for numbers to be crunched. Do you know if there's a net gain for Republicans in the Assembly?
There is. They are poised to gain as many as 8 seats, as I understand it. So that's another positive. And of course, our local congressional race, which was supposed to be a dead heat and very, very close. Congressman Katko had a very, very big win, and we picked up, it would appear, the seat in the Utica-Binghamton area, as well as a seat on Staten Island in the congressional delegation. So overall, it was a good night, and I believe that the voters made that course correction that I've talked about.
Do you you won't have, Republicans will not have a majority in either of the houses, as you've indicated. Does that make redistricting even tougher for Republicans come 2022?
Well, we are headed toward a redistricting year before the next state legislative and congressional races in 2022. And the fact that there are going to be more Republicans in the state Senate than we've had the last 2 years, and it would appear more Republicans in the Assembly, that gives us a greater voice in the reapportionment process. And so that's significant, because how you draw the lines of these districts is very, very important in terms of what the outcome may be in future elections.
Right, because that could make you...
For the next 10 years. And so that is very significant. This will give us a greater voice. Plus, there is a change in the whole reapportionment process. A few years ago, and I supported it, we put a constitutional amendment on the ballot for the voters to consider that would create an independent redistricting commission, which the voters did approve, and that commission is up and running, and they will be drawing the lines. Now, if the legislature wants to have some additional input or wants to reject their plans, that is still possible under the process. But the fact that there is going to be a closer political alignment in both houses of the state legislature, I think will point toward I'd say a fairer process when it comes to reapportionment. And that's what we really wanted all along. That's why we created this nonpartisan, independent commission to be involved in reapportionment going forward. And if with the legislature being closer in alignment, that will help protect the independence and nonpartisanship of that commission.
So you don't see the GOP as a forever minority party?
I do not. I do not. I'm very excited about the prospects going forward, and we even in let's face it, a pretty blue state like New York, we saw significant Republican gains this past Tuesday in all areas of the state, Long Island, even in the city, lower Hudson Valley, and here in upstate.
So let's switch gears. Let's get rid of politics for now. So why did you decide not to run for re-election?
Well, my, shall we say, plan was to seek re-election for at least one more term. I've had some health issues. Last fall, just about a year ago right now, I had a recurrence of a cancer condition and immediately began chemotherapy treatments. And when I talked with my doctors back in early January of this year, when I had to make a decision whether to run again or not, I was informed by my doctors that I was doing very, very well. I'm responding very, very well to the treatments, remarkably well in their words, but that I would continue to be in chemotherapy treatments this year, and for much of this year, which I have been. And so I made a decision that I just could not go through a political campaign, the rigors of a campaign, particularly in a huge sprawling district like the 51st district, a lot of travel and a lot of events and so on. And so I made a decision, if I couldn't go 100%, that it was time to step aside. And after all, 34 years is a good run. And so I'm very comfortable with my decision.
Seniority-wise, what were you seniority-wise in the Senate?
I was third in seniority out of 63 senators.
So are you feeling better, and are you doing better?
I am. In terms of the cancer condition, as I've said, remarkable results from the treatments. Although they do tire me out, but I'm going to take a break from those treatments, be able to, because of the progress we've made in mid-December. And so I'm looking forward to that, obviously. And of course, as you may recall, back in late March, I came down with COVID, as did my wife.
Well, I was going to ask.
She was able to be at home. She was miserable for a number of days. I was hospitalized for 19 days and even spent 3 days on a ventilator. And so I did rally. It didn't look good for a while, but I did rally. And that, of course, set us back health-wise for a number of weeks, although I'm feeling very, very good from that as well, fully recovered from COVID. And so how long were you out of health issues?
Yeah, how long were you out of?
I'm very comfortable with my decision to not try to go through a political campaign in the midst of all of it.
So no regrets on that front?
No, not at all. I've had 34 years of the privilege of representing the people of the district, and I'm ready to shall we say, move on to another chapter in my life.
So before we get to the next chapter, let's talk about the past chapters. What are you proudest of, having been in the legislature for 34 years?
Well, you know, Guy, yeah, I can point to some significant legislation that I've been involved in, such as, the STAR program that helps people with their school taxes. When I was chairman of the Energy and Telecommunications Committee in my first 12 years in the Senate, we authored what was called the Power for Jobs bill, which delivers low-cost electricity for businesses, employers, and it has retained and created countless number of jobs in this district and throughout the state of New York, giving some help with electric costs of these employers so they can hire more employees. And I could point to a number of pieces of legislation I've been involved in. But when I think back over the 34 years, the most satisfying part of the job and the responsibilities I've had is in what I'd call constituent services. I've had people come up to me over the years and say, Senator, you saved my life. And I said, well, what do you mean? And they go on to say that, I came down with cancer. My insurance company was not going to pay for treatments. But I called your office. You intervened. They did pay for treatments and saved my life. So it's those kind of...
So did it help that you were a district director for Steve Reifert, and you got, one of the jobs there when you were back here in Auburn in the 80s was you had to deal with constituents. That was your main job, making sure people got what they needed from the state of New York. Did it help to start with that position before becoming a senator?
Well, it sure did, because I worked on staff with 3 different legislators for 12 or 13 years before I was elected myself. As you point out, the last 4 years of that time was with the former Senator Reifert from Half Acre, right there in the Auburn area. And obviously, having that background of both constituent services and knowing what buttons to push, shall we say, to get results for people of the district, sure was a help to hit the ground running when I was elected myself, to be able to continue that kind of constituent service. So that I'm very proud of what we've been able to do for individual constituents over the years with their individual problems and concerns. Believe me, people tend to call a legislator's office, in my case, the state senator's office, when they've exhausted just about every other option, and they're frustrated and concerned and desperate in many times.
Is there anything
and so we would be able to help to get positive results from state government on their behalf, or in the case of the incident I cited, being able to reach out to a health insurer to speak on and advocate on behalf of a constituent and get positive results for them. That's been a very, very satisfying part of the job.
So in 34 years, is there anything you wish you could have done that you didn't get done?
Well, I would answer you in this way, Guy. I have been very concerned in the last few years, in particular, of the out-migration of people from particularly the upstate region, and that has been a concern. We've actually seen people leave upstate New York in particular and move to other states. And why do people leave? The governor would say, well, the weather and so on, but I think it's a lot more than that. The people leave New York because of they're seeking a place that is a more affordable place to live and a state that provides more economic opportunities for them. And that concerns me a great deal. And so I have turned my attention very rigorously in the last few years to working toward making our state a more affordable place and creating more economic opportunities for people. But that work is not finished. If I have any regret, it has not been time enough to turn all of that around so that people can make that decision to stay here, particularly our young people, to stay here, put down roots here, and be able to afford to live here and make a good living here. That would be my ultimate goal, and actually make our area so attractive people want to move in. And so we did not complete that job, but I have full expectation that my successor and some of these newly elected Republican senators like Angie Renna are going to, and Pete Oberacker, my successor, are going to continue that work, and let's turn upstate New York around.
Senator,
in a very positive way.
you mentioned the governor, but you have I think almost bookends. You started with one Cuomo and end with another Cuomo.
Right.
So
Right.
who was the best governor to work with from a legislative point of view? I think I know the obvious answer, but I'll flip that away because we only have about 10 more minutes, and I want to cover some public service issues. Who was the worst to work with?
Well, you're absolutely right. I when I was first elected, it was Mario Cuomo was governor, and now last few years Andrew Cuomo. And I've got to say, I work with whoever is governor, and once again, not to try to score political points and point fingers. I like to work with whoever's governor and their various state agencies to get, once again, results on behalf of my
So
constituents.
let me
No
modify
question, the
this.
best governor was Governor George Pataki, who was a former senator for one term before he was elected. He used to sit right behind me on the Senate floor, and he was a friend and a colleague. And when he became governor, it was a real pleasure to work for
So let me
with him.
modify
It
this.
was-
Let
So
me modify this.
that I would say. The worst governor that I've had to work with was Governor Spitzer,
Okay.
without question. He wasn't in that long, maybe 14 months or so before, scandal brought him down. But he was more of the, as governor, more of the my way or the highway type. And it was difficult to work with him. He was very, very smart, very, very up on the issues. Didn't have to rely on staff to fill him in. He knew the issues. I will grant him that. But Governor Spitzer was just a difficult, to work with. And I'd say for that reason, he would be the worst governor I've worked with.
So anything you're going to miss?
Well, I'm going to miss the people that I've worked with. Both in Albany, the Senate in many ways is like a family, and that is those kind of interpersonal relationships are going to. I'm going to miss that on a daily basis. Back in the district, the same thing. I like to move around the district. I enjoyed it. Maybe a glutton for punishment, but I always enjoyed being out there, being with people, and as I served them, and and we built up a good working relationships, partnerships, friendships throughout the district, and I'm going to miss that as well on a daily basis for sure.
So just a little bit about you. How did you get involved in politics?
Well, even as a junior high student way back when, I was always interested in current events, what was happening in the world, and that sort of led me to get involved in politics in my own area. I grew up in the Oneonta area in Otsego County. I got to know some of the local Republicans, office holders, and so on, and worked on some local campaigns. And so I kind of got into it at a very young age, and that was just an interest of mine. I had no ultimate goal of being in elected office myself. I knew I wanted to be in a position to be involved in what was happening in our area and throughout our nation. I was in college in the times of in high school and college of the Vietnam War. There were a lot of protests, a lot of unrest in this country. We think we have unrest now. We've had it in previous times in our history, and it was the Vietnam War at that time. And people were demonstrating, going up and down the street with placards and so on, which is all part of our great American freedoms to do that. Very important part of the whole process. But I made the conscious decision that I wanted a seat at the table where decisions are actually being made that impacted people in our region and our state and nation. And so that really led me to into politics and working initially for other state legislators. And then when Senator Reiford decided to retire in 1986, and I, of course, spoke with my wife and my family, and I decided to make a run for it at that time. And I was able to continue the work of, shall I say, having a seat at the table and having an impact on what was happening in our region of the state, our state as a whole, and ultimately our country. And that is what led me into politics. And hopefully, as I look back, hopefully we've made a positive impact.
So two quick, less than 1 minute answers, because I want to give you some time at the end. The first one is, what advice would you give to a student here who might want to get into public service?
Well, I would say in terms of your college experience, make sure that you key in on communication skills, because after all, this is a people business and a communicating business. Being in elected office or even appointed office for that matter. And so good communication skills, being able to write well, speak well, and communicate well is very, very important, as well as being up on the issues. And so that's what I would encourage students to do, and to get involved, as I did many, many years ago, in the political process, certainly voting, but more than that, getting involved in a political campaign of a candidate that you believe in. That is a good entree into public service for yourself.
Do you have plans after January 1st yet?
Well, I'm going to smell the roses a bit. I've got two granddaughters who live locally, and I want to spend more time with them, as well as my wife and other family. But I am talking with a number of folks about other opportunities of continuing to serve the people of the area in some capacity on a part-time basis, consultant basis. And so stay tuned. I'm going to take some time to sort all of that out. Because I want that combination of, being able to relax a bit, but also continue to try to help others, because that's in my genes. That's part of my DNA. I want to continue that at least on a part-time basis.
And I want to give you a brief moment, like I did with Gary Finch last week. Do you have anything you want to say to any of your constituents?
Well, I would say to all of my constituents in the district, that I have greatly appreciated their support over the years, and also the confidence that they've shown in me over the years. I've gone through 17 general elections, 2 primaries throughout my tenure, and I have always considered the support I've received from the people of the district as I call it a public trust. And I've tried to live up to that trust that they placed in me over the years. So I'm very, very appreciative to the people of the district for their support over the years. It's been my honor to stand up for you and speak out for you as well as your senator. and I just want to say thank you.
Well, Senator, thank you for joining us today for a conversation about your public service, and we got into a little bit of the elections, but we want to wish you and your wife and your family well and have a healthy 2021 and beyond, and we wish you well on that front. As we said at the beginning, this is the last of our shows for the fall of 2020 semester. We've front-loaded our schedule. We'll be back, we think, the week of January 25th. But before we go, though, we would like to let you know that you can send your ideas for future guests or questions to Inside Government or Beyond the Front Page at cozguytho@aol.com or 141 Dunning Avenue, Auburn, New York, 13021. I do want to thank the college students here who have made this possible, both our forums and our shows. We could not have done this without Professor Steve Keeler, Mike Morano, Doug Brill, and Jeff Sesniak. They have had a tough, as all the students have, semester here with COVID-19, but they have made things work, whether it's the remote setups for some of our forums or this Zoom interview, which worked really, really well. Thank you, Senator. But we want to thank them and hope they have a good rest of the semester as we head into finals. I'm Guy Cosentino for Cayuga Community College. We hope you have a great Thanksgiving, Happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Merry Christmas, and a great New Year. Be safe, be well, and see you back here in January. Can you see me on, or can you hear me? I'm not sure of either of those. Senator, thank you very much.